the Chicago Bulls take yet again another gruesome loss, and I think it is time to finally embrace the tank. The Bulls lose to the Brooklyn Nets, and we're going to get into that right after this. The Chicago Bulls lose yet another game, a winnable game against the Brooklyn Nets, but we didn't really get to do a video about the game against the Denver Nuggets, so we're going to talk a little bit about that, go over briefly about that. The Chicago Bulls also could have very well won this game, and they just fell apart in the fourth quarter. I think the main thing for the Chicago Bulls now lately has been turnovers. Obviously, it's a new team. They're still learning to gel together, but winning and playing the way they have played is not going to happen if they want to win with how they've played. Turnovers-wise, the Bulls had 17 in this game. Nuggets had 14. Obviously, we had points off turnovers. We had 21. Fast break points, we had 15. And points in the paint, we only had 36. They had 60. That really kind of shows our lack of big. Obviously, we have Nick Richards and Gerson Yabusele, but they're still undersized. Well, Nick Richards really isn't too undersized, but it's like you can really tell that the big, not having a big is kind of a problem. We have a big, but we don't. This game, Yabusele, 12 points, 4-13 shooting, 4 for 10 from 3. He looked really good in this game. Obviously, shooting-wise, it wasn't really the best, but it looked good, like, watching the game. Modest, 21 points and 7 of 13. Very efficient, 4 for 8 from 3. 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal. He had 3 turnovers, but, I know I say giving Modest a lot of leeway that he's young, but, obviously he's going to have to clean that up eventually. Anthony Simons, another good game, 15 points, 5 for 15. And then Jaden Ivey, 10 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals. It's Jaden Ivey. We expect this out of him. He's very, very good, very fluid player. He's a very all-around player. He could do everything on the court. And then you have Colin Sexton off the bench, 17 points on 6 of 14 shooting, 3 rebounds, 4 assists. And then Nick Richards in this game really played well, 15 points, 5 of 8 shooting, 7 rebounds, 1 steal, 1 block. So in this game, the Bulls lost 136 to 120. They only were down 3 points after the first quarter. Then outscore the Denver Nuggets by 9 in the second. Play a very competitive third quarter after the half, and outscore the Nuggets by 1 point. Then you get to the fourth quarter. Nuggets score 39 points, and the Chicago Bulls score 16. In this game, Jamal Murray had 28 points on 11 of 18 shooting, 4 and 9 from 3, and 11 assists to add to that. Jokic, 22 points, 14 rebounds, 17 assists. This, obviously, is a part where the big differential plays in. It's Nikola Jokic. It's really hard to contain him. But when you look at it, it's, things are going to happen like that with Nikola Jokic. He's an MVP player, but, things need to change a little bit. There was all-around scoring from the Nuggets in this game. Tim Hardaway Jr., 23 points. Jonas Valanciunas had 10 points on 4 rebounds. Very efficient shooting for him, 5 for 8 from the field. Then you had Julian Strawther, 19 points. Cameron Johnson, 14 points on 6 and 9 shooting. The Nuggets were very all-around in this game. But that game aside, let's get into the game that really matters, the one that the Bulls played tonight. Another very, very winnable game for the Chicago Bulls. They come out outscoring the Nets 31 to 27 in the first quarter, then get outscored 10 in the second quarter. It was looking like it was going to be a very good game. Obviously, it was a good game, but it's very winnable, and the Bulls should not be losing by this much. The Bulls come out of half, get outscored 35 to 29. Or they outscored the Nets 35 to 29. They looked really good in the third quarter. Towards the end of the third quarter, stuff started to fall apart just a little bit, and you could kind of tell that stuff wasn't going their way. And then you get to the fourth quarter. The Bulls get outscored 34 to 26 and end up losing 123 to 115. Another big factor in this game is turnovers. Once again, turnovers. The Bulls had 18. The Nets had 20. This is a turnover-heavy game. Each team both only had 22 points off of turnovers. Looking at it, it's really not that. This is a horrible game from both sides. But a winnable game for the Chicago Bulls. The Brooklyn Nets were 14-36 coming into this game, and the Bulls were 24-29. This is a game that the Chicago Bulls should be winning. In this game, leading scorer for the Chicago Bulls, 23 points, was Anthony Simons. Obviously, Anthony Simons is going to be the leading scorer with Josh Giddey being out. Matas Buzelis had an all-right game, But on the other side, Nicholas Claxton, it's really hard to... Nick Richards did all he could. I really think the refs were a little questionable in this game. Leading rebounder in this game for the Chicago Bulls was Rob Dillingham. That is insane. We are really guard heavy, but Rob Dillingham being the leading rebounder for the Chicago Bulls in this game is crazy. Leading rebounder for them, Claxton. Obviously, in assists, it was Simons, and an assist for them was Traer with 13. He had a crazy game for the Nets tonight. He had 13 points on 5 for 11 shooting with 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, and 1 block. Great game for Nolan. Obviously, Noah Clowning had a really good game, 22 points on a 7-11 shooting. Nick Claxton we talked about a little bit. And then Zaire Williams had a good game. Drake Powell had a really good and efficient game, 14 points on 4 of 8 shooting. And then you look at the Bulls. Yabusele played 22 minutes, only shot the ball 3 times, scored 3 points. And then Matas Buzelis, not too efficient in this game, 18 points on 5 of 15 shooting, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, and 3 blocks to add on to that. He did have 3 turnovers. And looking at Anthony Simons as well, he did have 5. But Anthony Simons, once again, led the Bulls, 23 points, 10 for 17 shooting, 3 rebounds and 7 assists. And then Jaden Ivey, 13 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, and 1 block. So Jaden Ivey really did it all on the court tonight. But ultimately, the Bulls come up really short. Colin Sexton also had a really big game, 21 points, 7 to 18 shooting, 5 rebounds, 1 assist, and 1 steal. I really think Colin Sexton got downhill really great tonight and got to the basket very well. But the whistle here tonight was not good at all for the Chicago Bulls. I feel like there are a lot of missed calls for the Chicago Bulls. You could also say the same for them as well. The Chicago Bulls shot 32 free throws, shot 25 for 32, and Brooklyn shot 21 for 31. I do think the refs did miss a few calls for the Chicago Bulls, but it's still a tough loss. And this is a game that you can't lose against Brooklyn. That's a team that has been struggling with Michael Porter Jr. out. Obviously, we have Josh Giddey out, and Trey Jones. But I think that the people that we have on this roster right now and in this lineup, we should be capable of beating this Brooklyn Nets team. Obviously, there were a few people in the Brooklyn Nets lineup that had a really good game and some big games from people that typically don't have those type of games. But Bulls take a tough loss. Let me know what you think about the Bulls' future and what we think could happen. I'm saying we're embracing the tank. We're going to see what happens here this upcoming summer with the draft and see what pick we can get in the lottery. Hopefully a lottery pick. But that's going to be all for this one, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.